إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم وأشهد أن حبيبنا ومولانا وسيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, let's start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a beautiful, bountiful praise. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of all that exists, to send His peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I start by admonishing myself first, as well as all of my brothers, to always have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to always be conscious of Him, to always be aware of Him, to always be fearful of Him, and to always live right under His supervision. Dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I want to start off by just giving my apologies to our dear brother Sheikh Ahmed. He was supposed to give the khutbah today. He came to us all the way from Kansas, and inshallah he's going to be sharing some thoughts with us afterwards, but I'm going to actually implore upon you to just stay with us for a couple of minutes after the khutbah because he traveled all of this distance. He's representing a masjid. We do this exchange with another masjid in a different part of the nation where they will come to seek support for their masjid, and one of our representatives from our masjid is now currently giving khutbah at their masjid seeking support for our masjid, financial support. So it's a beautiful way of exchanging and communities sharing resources. So I'm going to ask you all to stay afterwards. So you're supposed to give a khutbah, but because of the events of this week, we wanted to have somebody local also address what's going on. So dear brothers and sisters, as you all know, we just had our presidential elections. 2016, obviously in this country, every 4 years, there's a change in the presidency. And the president is, of course, the most important position that anybody holds in this country. Now we have extreme concerns about what's coming in front of us. The reason being because the President-elect Trump has said many disparaging things about Muslim communities and about other communities, right? And we don't want to forget that because we're not going to be blind or blindsided by what may happen. So these things were mentioned during the course of his candidacy, that all Muslims, and these are ideas that he threw out, that we're going to have all Muslims be registered in some sort of government database. We're going to have Muslims carry special ID cards. These are things that he said in some way, shape, or form. He said that it's not out of the question that we may have to shut down the mosque. He said that we don't have a problem of having wholesale surveillance of the Muslim houses of worship, the mosque. And he said that we will institute a total ban on Muslims entering into the U.S. These are his words. Right? These are his words. And that's us. But what about the greater community? He said many things that are very offensive to the Latino community. We're going to build a wall. We're going to mass deportation of illegal immigrants and break up families, where some members of the family have legal status and some don't. As regards to the black community, he said some very disparaging remarks about that community, that the African American community lives in communities that are hell, as he called them. Another thing, really horrific remarks in regards to women and how he himself deals with women. And we all heard those remarks. about the disabled, and on and on and on and on, right? And so this is the words of the man who's going to be our next president, the man who's supposed to be the leader. And for us as Muslims, we don't separate between a person's, the fact that they're going to lead politically, and also their moral and ethical behavior, their characteristics. It's very difficult for us as Muslims to separate those two notions, because our prophet, our leader, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the epitome of all good qualities rolled into one. So we have a difficult time separating those things out. Unfortunately, standards and ethics and morality has decreased and decreased, so people don't even look at some of those things anymore. So I'm afraid of what may transpire in the coming months. You know, what sort of policies may be instituted, what things are implemented against different communities. I'm concerned about the bigots that may be brought onto his cabinet and that are already being brought onto his cabinet. Those things concern me extremely. But you know what? There is something that I can say, and I can say openly. I'm on the minbar in America, and I can say openly that Trump is not my president. I can say openly that Trump is not my president. And I can say that, and I'm not afraid of any retribution from anybody. I'm not afraid of some secret person here in the audience, and maybe there is, about taking that information and then tomorrow I may disappear from the community. No, America is not that kind of place. America, I have freedom of speech, and I have the ability to freely express that. This is not a place like Egypt, what we saw a couple of years ago, where you know, the Sisi became president. I couldn't go the next day on the minbar over there and say that Sisi is not my president. I can't do that with it, but here in America I can do that. And so I accept the fact that you win some and you lose some. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Those are the days that you win some and you lose some. Sometimes it works for us and sometimes it works against us. Sometimes there's prosperity, sometimes there's adversity. And then it flips and it changes. These ayats were revealed in relation to the situation of the Muslims after the Battle of Uhud, when for the most part you can argue that the Muslims lost that battle. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that you win some and you lose some. And that's just the reality. Victory and defeat is part of the circle of life. Right? You can't have defeat without victory. And not that the other party's candidate, that Clinton was necessarily the greatest person in the world, and all of our support was with her with full strength and so. I mean, but this is the American political process. And at the end of the day, we don't know how things will turn out. Right? We don't know how things will turn out. We see very disparaging remarks coming from this man. But think about the opposite. In the year 2000, the Muslim community as a bloc, as a whole, who did we support? Who were we advised to support by Muslim leadership across the country? Because they studied the issue and they thought that George Bush would be the best man for the job. And obviously it worked out very different as far as the majority of Muslims are concerned, right? So we never know how things are going to work. We never know how things are going to play out. I wanted to, today, brothers and sisters, just empower you, inshallah ta'ala, with a few important concepts and some very important advice from our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one thing that's very important for us in this time is this is a time for Muslims to unite more so than any other time. Right? The community bickering, the community politics, the politics between different masajid, the politics between different Muslim organizations and all of that, all of those things need to be put on the side, and Muslims need to work together. We need to strengthen our bonds. And not only that, we need to strengthen the bonds with the Muslim community, but also with our partners outside of the Muslim community, right? There are other communities that are extremely upset about what's happening. extremely upset and showing their voice and their concern and their anger out on the streets even. And so we have many, many partners in this fight. Right? We should not face alone that which we can face together. There's no reason for us to go this alone. My daughter, she's in high school, and yesterday at her school, the first day after the election, or was it Wednesday, I guess, the students, they protested. They left class. They organized this on Twitter, on social media in their first period class. They left class. The school administration, made sure things were supervised in a decent way. And they all got up and they all, on the stage, and different students got up and said different things. Many students were crying, were emotional, and from all different communities, especially the Latino community, where people were worried about their family members and what's going to happen to them. The dangers that may befall them are much more than may befall us, right? So my point is that we have many partners in this fight, and that was so empowering for my daughter. She came home and she was on cloud 9, because she knows in our house that we're very upset about what's going on, but then when she sees it all around her, right, at the same time, that there's other people who are extremely concerned, upset, saddened, disheartened, depressed, angry over what's going on, that gave her strength, right? So we have to join with other communities. It's very important, this concept is very important. What would we have done as a Muslim community, and I ask this as just a question to sit in our heads, would we have been this upset, to this level of anger and this level of being upset if the president-elect had not said anything specifically about Muslims? Would we have been that upset? Say he said those remarks about other communities and other communities alone. Would we have that same level of anger? And would we have that same level of concern? So it's very important that we believe as Muslims in liberty and justice for all, not just for some. And not only when it concerns us as Muslims, right? Because this time it concerns us as Muslims and everybody else around us. So it's important that we understand that an Islamic cause is not just something that is a Muslim cause. You understand what I mean by that? An Islamic cause is any just cause. A Muslim cause is something related to Muslims in particular. But an Islamic cause is anything that concerns justice with any people, whether they be Muslim or not. Right? And so it's always important for us as Muslims to keep that in mind. We don't just stand up for right and take a louder voice when there are issues concerning us, but when they concern anybody. Our Prophet ﷺ, he taught the great Sahabi, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he taught him some beautiful words. And I think they are so powerful and so pertinent and relevant to what we are experiencing now. Sayyidina Ibn Abbas was riding behind the Prophet ﷺ, and Rasulullah ﷺ, he says to him, Ya ghulam, inni u'allimuka kalimat. He says, oh young boy, I'm going to teach you something. I'm going to teach you some words of wisdom. And these words of wisdom are so powerful for us. So listen to these words. He says, Ihfidillah yahfaz. He says, guard and protect and preserve Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guard and protect and preserve you. Meaning that live within the boundaries as to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do right by you. Ihfidillah tajidhu tujahak. And guard and preserve the rights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed upon you, and you will find Allah always with you. You will find Allah always with you. وَإِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ. And when you ask Allah. When you want something from this world, go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. وَإِذَا اسْتَعِنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. And when you seek assistance of anything, go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek that assistance. And this part of the hadith, the end part of the hadith, is so powerful and so relevant to us today. The Prophet ﷺ says, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةَ لَوْ اجْتَمَعَتْ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَنْفَعُوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك. He says that know that if the whole world gathered together and they wanted to benefit you with something, they would not be able to benefit you except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written for you. Everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, and know that if the whole world wanted to harm you with something, they would not be able to harm you except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written and prescribed to happen upon you to happen. So why is that relevant? That's relevant because the Prophet ﷺ starts the hadith by telling us, says, do right by Allah and Allah will do right by you. So that means we need to stay steadfast. We don't need to change our ways. We don't need to compromise. We don't need to hide our deen and our way and who we are as Muslims. I'm not saying be ignorant and go out into a dark alley at night where there's some shady people and go and walk and wear the most, pronounced Islamic clothing you can wear. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying don't change your mentality and think that now as Muslims we need to go into some sort of hiding and now we need to, these things are going on and God knows what's going to happen and we need to be careful and vigilant and every single moment of the day we should be scared, that type of thing. No, that's not who the Prophet ﷺ trained us to be. And he trained us and he told us that if you do right with Allah, Allah will do right with you. And know that if everybody in the whole world tries to benefit you or harm you, they can't do that except what's already prescribed to happen, right? So we don't live our lives as people who are in fear. Nor do we change, nor do we compromise, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always in control. We don't know what's going to come ahead of us. But it's important to keep that right mind frame and perspective and not to have that defeated sort of mentality. We can, and I'll say this even, we can take a comment here and there. You may have already gotten it, or you may get it in the days coming. There was a sister who was on the news yesterday, Channel 7 News, young girl at El Camino High School, just down the street. 2 times in one day, she was once verbally assaulted, and the next time she was physically assaulted. They pulled her hijab from behind and tried to take it off her head. Kids at school, right? And that's dangerous, and that's bad, and that's sad that the situation is as such. But even having said that, if it happens to you on the street, we can take a comment here or there. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his community, they took much, much more. So we can take a comment here and there. Somebody tells you, go back home, say, you know what, why don't you come home with me and have some tea with me at my house? This is my address. We can take a comment. It's not the end of the world, right? It doesn't mean we need to crumple up in fear and die somewhere in some corner. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ that evil and good are not equal. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. Somebody does something to you bad, respond with something good. And believe me, there's people around who are watching. There's people around who will defend you. I'm not talking about Muslims, I'm talking about people. There's people who will stand for right. And alhamdulillah, we live in Los Angeles, and I can say all of these things to you and empower you fully. If we were in a place like where our Imam is from Kansas or other parts of the country, I don't know how the situation is there. I'm not from there. I never lived there. I never lived in the South. So I don't know if these words that I'm saying here apply in other places as cleanly, or I need to tell you to be more careful. No, we live in Los Angeles, a very metropolitan area. We don't have to have those concerns to a point where, other people perhaps need to have them. When they threw trash on the Prophet ﷺ's his porch, what did he do? How did he respond? He went and he would go visit them when they were sick, right? So we don't want to have it over, because believe me, there's people who are doing things just by parroting what they're hearing from their leadership. There's people who are, and brother, we can, these are my opinions, these are not the opinions of the masjid, these are my own personal opinions, and we can have a discussion afterwards. So there are, I'm not saying have your rights trampled upon, right? I'm not saying have your rights trampled upon, no. But when people abuse us, we stick up for ourselves, and others will come to our defense. We have our organizations that are taking care of our rights and are defending our rights. Dear brothers and sisters, we are not weak or helpless, but we should also strive to make the change that we want to see happen. It's going to come at our hands, right? It's going to come at our hands. And we need to be more determined than ever. Somebody said in a tweet somewhere these last few days, they said it's better, and I don't know if I agree with this tweet in essence, but I'm sharing with you the essence of it. He said that it's better for us, and I don't necessarily agree with it, I'm just sharing it with you, so don't shoot back at me. It's better, brother, that's enough. Brother, that's enough, please. So this brother, he's tweeted.
Can you introduce yourself?
So this brother, he said that it's better for us. I don't know if I agree with the statement, but I'm just sharing it with you, the concept. It's better for us that Trump won. That if Hillary Clinton won and and Muslims stayed asleep, it's better that somebody else won and that we wake up, right? I don't know if I agree with the statement, but the point is that we as Muslims, we need to be alert, we need to be awake, we need to know what's going on. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in the hadith related by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, "Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-dha'if." He said that the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the weak believer, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, they were always living in a situation of difficulty. He's not saying that the Muslims are on top. He's saying that the Muslims are struggling, right? The strong believer is better than the weak believer. And there's good in all of them, right? And then listen to the rest of the hadith. This is beautiful. It says, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk." He says, be diligent in doing that which is beneficial to you, right? وَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا تَعْجَزْ. And seek assistance in Allah and don't feel incapacitated. Don't feel, the whole world is against us, this new government is coming, and we're going to have no power, and that's it, and we're done, and we're doomed. The Prophet said, no, don't, وَلَا تَعْجَزْ. And don't sit and do nothing. وَإِنْ أَصَابَكَ شَيْءٌ فَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا وَكَذَا. And if something happens to you in the meantime, don't say that, if only I did such and such and such and such, then such and such wouldn't have happened, right? وَلَكِنْ قُلْ قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. But say, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to happen, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to happen, happened. It's done. Right? It's done. We're not going to sit and our whole lives and complain about something that we don't have control over. And the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنَّ لَوْ تَفْتَحُ عَمَلَ الشَّيْطَانِ. He said the word if this, if only the election went this way, if only Sanders had done this, if only this, and the Democratic Party. Don't continuously think that way, and don't say those words if, because it opens up the doors for the works of shaitan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. Dear brothers and sisters, a few things that I want to say in the last few minutes. Number one, don't forget, the election passed, and many other things happened in this election right now. When you voted, only the first box that you checked off, and you all should have voted, hopefully not register to vote and make sure you vote next time. The first box that you checked off was for president. How many more boxes did you check off after that? Right? There's a lot of things that happen. And it's important that we pay attention. We know what's going on in the community. Proposition 63 passed, which is going to increase gun control measures. Proposition 64 passed, legalizing the use of marijuana, which is going to have impact on us, on our kids, on our society. Proposition 62 did not pass. They tried to, so the attempt to repeal the death penalty failed. In other words, the death penalty still stands in California. Proposition 58, it allows for bilingual education programs. That passed. And many people are excited about that because now their children can learn in multiple languages. Proposition 51 passed, $9 billion that will be going towards building up the infrastructure of our educational institutions. So many other things happened in this previous election. Let's not forget about that. It's not all about one thing. Dear brothers and sisters, I want to leave you with these couple of words. I'm sorry, I'm just going to run a couple of minutes over today because this was obviously an important week, and it's important that we comment on everything. It's important that we become action-oriented and not complaint-oriented. Right? Action-oriented and not become people whose whole life is spent in complaining. So some action items for us, and very simple action items. That we have families to take care of, right? And we have children that are looking up to us. And we have other family members that have scares and worries and anxieties. Number one, we need to process our own fears and anxieties. Right? Is what I'm feeling rational or is it not? Focus on what you have control over, right? What you don't have control over, we put it in his hands. Focus on what you have control over. Take a break. Some people are so immersed in their social media and their news and following every single statement and comment and this and that you're harming yourself. Right? You're harming yourself. Take a break. This weekend, take a break. Take your kids out. Take the family out. We need to have that sort of relationship. Sa'a wa sa'a. The Prophet said, there's a time for this and there's a time for that. Support each other. Support each other. You're feeling stressed out, call your friend. Hey man, I'm feeling stressed out. What's going to happen? And talk it out. Don't pass your stress on to your children. Right? Be careful. Don't pass your stress on to your children. Pay attention to your children. Listen to your children. Talk to them. And listen to them. And don't always advise them. Right? Sometimes they just need you to talk to you, man. If they tell you something and you immediately respond back with advice, they may or may not like it. Next time they're not going to tell you something. They're not going to share it, right? So just sit and listen. Listen to them. Listen to their concerns, their fears, their worries. Also, the election actually the election discussion is a chance to connect. It's actually a chance for you to connect as families, as weird as it sounds, but you can actually have a discussion inside of your family about a real matter of substance, right? And so take that opportunity. Don't let that opportunity pass. It's important that we communicate with our family, and this is as good a time as many to process those feelings. And brothers and sisters, there was actually some good that came out of this election. And I'm going to share with you a couple of good things, good developments that came out of this. Number one, there was a brother by the name of Abdullah Hammoud, an Arab-American Muslim, who was elected and won a state legislator's seat in Michigan, right, for the first time. There was a sister by the name of Ilhan Omar, Somali-American woman, wears hijab. She was elected to the state legislature in the state of Minnesota. It's a beautiful development. And there is our dear brother, Keith Ellison. Many of you who know, who's visited this community, who's visited many Muslim communities in Muslim America. He's Muslim. He has been nominated by Bernie Sanders to be the chair of the Democratic National Party. Right? That's a big development. So there is good news that is there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khayrun lakum." It may be that you need something, but there's maybe good in it. We don't know. We don't know what the future holds. There are certain things that we're uncertain of, and we acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah says, قُلْ لَا يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا, that nothing is going to befall us except what Allah has written for us, prescribed for us. هُوَ مَوْلَانَا وَعَلَيْهِ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Mawla. He is our protector at the end of the day. Not the President of the United States, Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is the one that we put our trust and our faith in. Right? So dear brothers and sisters, lastly, it's important that I again announce in the beginning, our dear Imam Ahmed is here from Kansas, all the way from Kansas. And we're doing an exchange that one of our representatives is at his masjid in Kansas seeking support, fundraising for this community, for Islamic Society West Valley, and Imam Ahmed is here fundraising for his masjid in Kansas City. A huge project, 17-acre project that they are working on, a masjid, a school, a community center. There's opposition from the community. They need our support in helping their community. And again, I apologize to Sheikh Ahmed. He was supposed to give the khutbah, but we wanted to address some of these local matters and national matters. So please, if you can, if you're not in a rush to get back to work, please stick around for a few minutes. Sheikh Ahmed is going to tell us a little bit about his masjid and ask us for his support. So please support him generously. I'm going to make dua and say Amen. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب دعوات. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في كل مكان. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.